Charles mailbag question of the week. He said he's not going to ask if this year was the best set of college football playoff semifinals. He feels it's obvious.
Okay.
I'm inclined to agree. But did this year's 2 games make you look forward more to the expanded playoffs, or make you want to keep it the way it is now? I think it's a nice intro to the conversation.
I'm ready to look forward to the expanded playoff.
Really?
Just off of the strength of the Tulane and USC game. Tulane keeps going.
Yeah.
Teams like that only need a chance. Any given Saturday, any given Sunday. It's football. And it just creates a different level of competition. So I'm down for it, man. Because you see a lot, you get to see a lot. It's kind of like college football's March Madness. You see a receiver you never knew about. Tulane had a 6'2" corner who tweeted after the game, when's the last time a corner won the Heisman? We didn't know about that kid. And he played a hell of a game. So we get to see different level of football against the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big 12. You know, so I'm open to it.
Now, to be fair, Tulane wouldn't have made the playoff. Even in an expanded 12-team set.
But USC would have.
But USC would have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting, right? Because the converse is we wouldn't have gotten that game. You have 12 teams. USC's in. Tulane's beating up on somebody.
Right. But my point is a team like a Tulane could beat a USC. Who's to say Boise State, when they were really good, couldn't beat a Georgia on one Saturday?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually with that. I mean, I think we talked a couple weeks about USC, and we said that USC maybe should have won the game that they played if Caleb was healthy.
Yeah.
Was Caleb healthy in that game?
Yes, he was.
Tulane? And did they win?
They did not.
No, they did not. Right? So at that point, I'm like, all right, give me something like that. If you have that team that might just make a random run, in all honesty, we might be looking at the same thing with Florida State next year. Florida State's going to come into that season probably ranked within the top 12. They should be, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now if you're playing in the ACC and now you can be 11-1 and maybe lose to only Clemson, if they're ranked in the top 10, top 5, whatever, we might be sitting there on that cusp.
Right.
I would love to see Jordan Travis and that Florida State offense play. Let's see what happens.
So I think my argument where I do agree with you, Unc, and my example wouldn't be Tulane. My example would be Penn State. I think a lot of people forgot about Penn State. We thought actually was in a group chat and somebody's like, wasn't Penn State trash this year?
No.
No, not at all. They actually only lost 2 games. Mm-hmm. To who? Michigan and Ohio State, who were playoff teams. Yep. Penn State was good. They go out and they handle a Utah team who was ranked ahead of them because Penn State was a good football program. So I would have liked for the world to be reminded, like, yeah, wait, no. You forgot about them. You put them over there, but they're a good team. Mm-hmm. Now, are they a top 4 team? Well, probably not. Yeah. And they play a top 4 team. They'll probably look not up to snuff.
Ohio State, Michigan.
But
right.
But when you play them against other teams, like, yeah, they are a competitive squad. So I would have liked for the world, like, because teams will lose a couple of games and folks will just trash them. They'll just dump them and just like forget about them. But it's like, no, like they're still good. They just may not be one of the top 3 teams in the country. Conversely, though, to argue now with myself, because what's fun is
sound familiar.
If I'm not going to argue with me, then who will I argue with? The other side of that coin, though, would have been number 12 Washington playing at number 1 Georgia. And I'm straight. I don't need to see that bloodbath. Washington gets washed. And I'm all about Michael Penix. I think he's had a phenomenal season. Washington has no business playing at Georgia, which is what would have happened because Washington was number 12, Georgia's number 1.
That's typically how a number 1 seed they get a cakewalk.
That's the thing. Like, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see Georgia wash Washington in week 1 of the college football expanded playoffs.
I mean, do we need to see Loyola and Duke in the first round? But you might get it.
I mean, you might, but this ain't basketball, man.
I'm just saying, man. I get it, but still,
in all honesty, if
playoffs,
if they give the top teams a bye, and then
nobody gets a bye.
No, I'm saying
even that. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but
you earned it.
But honestly,
but they're not going to though.
But honestly, even if they did, I think Sean Payton was talking the other day about everybody being mad about the NFC South having a team that might be sub 500 and they're getting to the playoffs. And he talked about his Saints team that was like 11-5 playing beast mode in the Seahawks
and losing
to a 7-9 team. And then what did they end up doing? Then going to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter honestly what your record is or honestly what your ranking is. That team might beat Georgia.
Come on.
Really though? But at that point, are you mad that they beat Georgia? Georgia should have won.
No.
It's more exciting, actually.
I wouldn't be upset with it, but college isn't pro. And so I don't like that comparison. We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. The pro model is set up for an equal playing field. You're really bad. Well, how can we help you get better? We're going to give you the better draft picks.
But to Unk's point, that's like basketball. Loyola beating Duke. Loyola shouldn't beat Duke.
But basketball is not like football. In basketball, one guy can get hot, and that one guy, Jimmer Fredette, gets really, really hot and then carries his team several rounds.
To the Sweet 16.
But
we just got off the NFL. A team could get hot in the NFL, and go run. It's still football.
No, they're all professionals. These are all guys who went through the college ranks, and then you were the 1%.
We can use Florida State. We can use Florida State. Florida State got hot, and we went on a 6-game winning streak. You don't think Florida State could contend with anybody in the playoffs?
Georgia, no. I'm sorry. I'm saying no.
Okay,
and I'm sorry.
Excuse Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. You don't think Florida State contends?
I don't think y'all can run with Ohio State. Okay. I don't. Okay.
But I'm saying a team could get hot and make a run. Florida State could make a run in the playoffs.
You can get hot, but at the end of the day, and this is what college football has been. Now, obviously this year, and I think we're going to get into the games here in a second. College football is a little weird. It's unlike any other sport that we're used to because of the model and the setup. It's not like basketball, where basketball, I can have one guy who balls out. I just need one guy. And that one guy can carry me to a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8. That one guy affects both sides of the court constantly. A guy might play a whole game. College football, at most, you're only ever affecting half of the field. I mean, you're not playing both ways.
My rebuttal is Johnny Wilson. He got hot and we won the game. That could get us to the next round.
Okay, but
and
Johnny
then somebody
Wilson's
else could get hot.
Stops.
Yeah, and
he's not playing defense, though.
We didn't get any stops.
Wait. So in my comparison to basketball to football, which is why I don't think comparing them is a good example, is that even Johnny Wilson getting hot, he's not going to get stops. And Johnny Wilson needs somebody to get him the ball, as opposed to a point guard who I'm just shooting a ridiculous point from three because I just can't miss. Okay, now I'm Ole Miss, and they're doing the land shark thing. We get to the Sweet 16. And it's not like basketball.
In all honesty, like with football, to me, I feel like you only have the best comparison to me is when you have a handful of teams where you have 0-1 Ravens or 85 Bears, where they're just unstoppable teams.
But then,
right?
I don't like comparing pro to college.
No. Well, fine.
You sound like an old man.
Hold on. Joe Burrow's LSU team couldn't be stopped. Right? 2013 Seminoles, they put up how many points per game? 0-1 Hurricanes couldn't be stopped. Mm-hmm. Those teams, offense and defense, they're just prolific. Right. Mm-hmm. Football is one of those teams one of those sports to your point where you might have the best quarterback, but maybe on the other side they have the best defense you've ever seen. It just happens to work out that way, where Georgia almost lost to Missouri in the season, right?
Yeah, right.
But they sit here and now they go blow for blow with Ohio State. But nobody would say Missouri would go blow for blow for Ohio State. You saying like we would get trashed.
No, I didn't say you get trashed. I just don't think you
think we're better.
You can really contend with them.
Right. So again, to Unk's point, on any given Sunday or Saturday, you might not have it.
Okay, but playoff Georgia and random week 7 at Missouri, it's not the same. But this is also the same Georgia who took a Tennessee team who seemed unstoppable and made them look below average. And when you get all of Georgia's attention, unless
that same Ohio State team.
I said Georgia, Tennessee.
No, but they went blow for blow with Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same Ohio State team that got blown out by Michigan, who looked trash against TCU.
So I was coming to that. Michigan didn't look trash. They just had a few turnovers.
They didn't look good to me.
All right, we're gonna get into the games. We're gonna get into the games.
They were 1 pick six away from winning that game, and they threw 2.
So you don't want to expand it?
I'm anti-expansion. I mean, it's gonna happen. So it is what it is. It really doesn't matter what I feel about it. But I do think we're gonna get. I think more of those new games, so more of those 1 versus 12, 2 versus 11, I think more of those games are going to be ho-hum. Then they'll be exciting. Because even in the basketball lineup, and I don't think it's a good comparison, but usually when you get a 1 seed versus a 16 seed, rarely do we see those. Yeah, the 5-12 is weird, but the 1 versus 16, those hardly ever happen. Once every few years. The 2 versus 15, those upsets rarely happen because the talent level just usually isn't close. And I'm sorry, I don't want to see Washington play Georgia. I don't. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. And I'm okay not seeing that. Fast forward me to Georgia, Ohio State.
No, I always try to look at something from how can you make this product better. And I like following storylines. We already know what's going to happen. Georgia's going to win it all. I need to follow a storyline up until watching Georgia win it all. That's just me.
I mean, I don't know that.
I know. I'm picking Georgia to win.
I get it,
but I do think I went into the TCU Michigan game. The biggest thing I looked at in that matchup was, and I may be jumping the gun.
Go ahead.
Going into that matchup, I looked at the explosive play, and I said, can Michigan stop the explosive play? TCU was top 10, top 15, I think, in the country in explosive plays. And I'm like, if Michigan can stop that, then Michigan will be able to do what Michigan wants to do. They want to lean on you. They want to run the ball. They want to out-physical you. And if they can do that, then they'll win that game just fine. But if they can't, well, you end up with what you got, which was TCU putting up a bunch of points and Michigan having to score a bunch of points, which that's not who Michigan is. Now they show that they can do it a little bit, but then they also made uncharacteristic mistakes because they had to play an uncharacteristic style of ball for them.
I got jagged on a touchdown.
Huh?
Yeah, I got jagged on a touchdown.
Yeah, he was definitely in.
I think his butt was in the end zone. They called him short. But, that game specifically, I went into that game saying, like, no, I think these teams are fairly evenly matched. And then also, even in the Georgia-Ohio State game, going into that game, I'm like, well, yeah, Georgia's, I think, the best team. But you could argue that Ohio State has the best offense in the country. Right. They got a top 3 draft pick and a quarterback. They've got arguably the best wide receiver in the country right now. That combination right there, and they have, 2 other receivers that are probably going to be first-round draft picks. Yeah, that team on the right night, yeah, they might can give Georgia a run. But do I also turn that and say, well Washington can also get – no, because Washington don't have that. Washington don't have a top 5 draft pick. They don't have a first-round wide receiver. So there's certain things I think you need to be able to compete with some of those upper echelon teams. And I just I don't feel like some of those other teams have it. Ohio State has it. I think TCU has it. Like, honestly, I think Max Duggan, the way he's playing right now, is he's playing
Heisman football.
He's playing Heisman level football. He's got a receiver who's playing top 5 receiver in the country level ball. When at that point, shoot, they might need. I mean, they're going to brag on him. If you get one other guy to step up, well, you might have a game.
So, do you think the main reason why TCU was able to win that game is because they turned it into a kind of a
track meet,
a run and gun kind of thing?
TCU plays track meet ball. You look at a lot of their games, TCU has put up a lot of points. Michigan beat several teams by scoring less than 20 points. Michigan they're not structured to play shootouts.
They want to out-physical you.
Georgia's really not structured to play shootouts. Now, I think, and this is kind of a side note, and I mentioned this somewhere else, and I think nobody's talking about it, Georgia just showed that they can win a shootout. And we have not seen them win like that in a long time. Like, honestly, I can't remember the last time they did except for really a real shootout when they played Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. And that game went to double overtime or something like that. And they ended up scoring like 40-some points. It ended up being like a 45-42 game or something like that. We haven't seen Georgia win a shootout, which is scary. To me, that's scary.
I think that's why it's set up for a good championship because we've seen TCU win a 10-17 game. So their defense could hunker down when they need to. And we've also seen them beat a team 65-14. So they could play it however you want to play it too.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Duggan and Bennett are one and the same. They're not highly respected or regarded across the country, but they're gritty guys, and they know how to make the right play for their team whenever they need it. So I think it's going to make for a good championship. And since we're on it, I mean, why not? Let's just make our predictions and how the game is going to go. And then we'll kind of regress and talk about some of our favorite bowl games.
I'm tired of betting against Stetson Bennett. He proves me wrong every single time. I mean, he just does. He's Ken Dorsey. No, really. That guy who in college football,
does he get drafted?
He's Ken Dorsey. Sure.
Or Troy Smith.
Didn't Ken Dorsey get drafted by like the Browns or something? Like
he got drafted.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He's not going to do anything. He is a great college quarterback. And I think that he's exactly what that team needs. And the fact that team believes in him the way they do, that's really half the battle's won right there. They know that I don't care. We've got Stetson. We're good. And they believe that. So give me Georgia.
Okay. Breeze?
You want me to go? Yeah, give me Georgia. I think TCU to beat
28-23, by the way.
I think for TCU to beat Georgia, I think they needed to be a track meet, and I don't know if they will have the horses because once Marvin Harrison went down, Ohio State didn't really have the horses either. Mm-hmm. And when it's just one receiver that Georgia needs to shut down, I think they can do that. Okay. Right? I think they kind of learned their lesson last year with the Jamison Williams in the SEC championship game, where it's like, okay, we can't let this one guy kill us. Give me Georgia, and I'm going to take Georgia like 27-17. Honestly, I don't think TCU puts up a lot of points. And I think also TCU will need Georgia to help them, and I don't think Georgia's going to do it. Michigan turned the ball over 4 times, and they still end up winning by 1 possession. Georgia's not going to turn it over 4 times. You may get 1. Stetson will give you 1,
right?
But you're not getting 4 out of the Georgia offense, and so then I don't think they're going to get the help they'll need.
Give me Georgia as well. The other guys showed up, like receivers. Arian Smith showed up. He's a Tampa kid,
dude. Apparently he runs like a 4.3.
He's probably the fastest kid in the country. That's what they're saying. So when other receivers are showing up at Georgia,
yeah,
run.
Well, Mr. Postseason, AD Mitchell, who only shows up in the postseason.
Here they come.
He's been hurt all year.
Here they come. It might be a blowout. Honestly,
really,
I think TC. It might be a blowout. They might score 17 points. Georgia may get 40.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a romping.
Dang. The one thing about TCU, if they win this championship, they deserve it because Michigan's defense is no slouch. They've been really good all season.
Yeah.
So to beat a Michigan defense and then turn around and beat a Georgia defense,
the gauntlet,
you earned it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So and Georgia ain't Michigan. So
no.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let me read off the bowl records because we all always want to say the SEC is so mighty. Not us, but everyone else wants to say the SEC is so mighty. So I'll just run down the list.
The region that we live in.
You're a goat for this. This is a great way to start your year off.
It's doing good.
I'm still nervous, by the way.
Bring it in.
No, he's not.
Before we get into our favorite games and then we'll move forward, I'll just read off the bowl record so far. The Mac attack is the leaders in the clubhouse.
That Wednesday night Mac shit.
I don't want to.
Why did you even lead with that?
Sleeping.
They're at the top of the list.
That Maction. No, I don't want to watch no Maction. Okay,
they're 4-2.
I bet they are.
Still ain't gonna watch.
The Independents, they're 3-2.
Oh, you gonna dump on that though?
Yeah, I'm dumping on who is it? BYU and Notre Dame.
Sure.
It's not BYU that's independent. Who is it?
Is it? No, Notre Dame is definitely.
I think BYU is independent.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Boo! The American. Shout out to USF. 4-3.
Okay.
The mighty ACC 5-4.
Hello.
Okay.
Big Ten 5-4. The SEC 6-5. Conference USA 3-3. Mountain Western 3-4. Pac-12 3-4. Sun Belt 3-4. Big 12 2-6.
Sheesh, Big 12.
Yeah. So for everyone that's saying the SEC is so mighty, it's really still Georgia, Alabama, and LSU, and the rest of the pack.
They're very top heavy. They're just always. They started out 0-2 in bowls, and I had this conversation, and I think I'm going to do an article on this. How do you grade the strength of a conference? Is it by its best teams, its worst, or the middle of the pack?
I would love to read that article because it's always top heavy. You label the ACC when Miami's good, Florida State's good, and Clemson, and you forget about Wake Forest. You forget about North Carolina when they're not good.
But is that the true temperature of a conference, though? Is that the true condition of a conference by its best teams?
I mean, in all honesty, what did they say about Florida State until Miami got there? For 25 years, what did they say about the ACC? Well, we don't play anybody.
Fair.
The only thing is, when you play us, you'll get smacked.
Lost.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, what is it? Where do you look at a conference to say I have an idea?
If we're going by the best teams, it's the Big Ten. You got.
I'm asking you: is it the best? Is it the worst? Or is it the middle of the pack? Which of those in a conference actually says the true temperature of a conference?
I think it's honestly the consistency of your top teams.
Okay.
I mean, Big Ten.
Think about it.
I mean, for like the Big Ten, Michigan and Ohio State are typically always 10-win teams.
Iowa beat Kentucky in the bowl game.
I hear you, but again, consistently, does Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State finish 10-win seasons? Okay, cool. They're probably really good teams.
Okay.
Consistently, does Georgia, Bama, and LSU finish in the top 10?
Georgia, Bama, and one other.
Now, again, if it's always just some kind of random up and down,
it's Georgia, Bama, and then some other rando.
Right.
This year was Tennessee.
So if it's Michigan, Ohio State, and Iowa, Michigan State, Illinois, whatever, well, then it's just Michigan and Ohio State there.
Okay.
So you got two teams.
Okay.
That's it.
See, but and I don't want to give the whole thing away. Just the kind of the premise of it is
you're showing too much thigh right now.
All right. Okay. I'll save it.
Show me more. All right.
I got you hook, line, and sinker.
All right. Favorite games. Talk about them. Pick one game that you enjoyed watching. Mine is Alabama.
Really?
And Kansas State.
Why?
Just because I'm a dick. And if you want me to go first, I'll go first.
Please, you're already there.
Pump. Are they still a D team?
Oh boy.
I'll just ask you that first.
Sober pump.
Oh boy.
Off of the strength of what? Yes, I will say yes. No, honestly, off of the strength of what Alabama has been over the years. Again, that's always been my argument, is the fact that what they have been, they are a D team based on their own standard, not based off of their record. I mean, they're still an 11-win team, right? 11-2.
11-2, number 5 in the country.
I mean, I would trade for that. I'm sure Miami would trade for that,
100%.
right? So I would trade for that D grade. But compared to what Alabama has been, and again, if you look at that team, what wide receiver is going to go in the first round this year?
None.
Wasn't Will Anderson a Heisman candidate last year?
Yeah, he'll go.
He's still elite.
No.
He's still elite.
No. Fine. He's still elite. But was he not a Heisman candidate last year?
Yes, he was.
What's he doing right now?
Not as much.
I can't tell you.
All right.
We've seen them go against Texas. If it wasn't for Bryce Young pretty much throwing the ball 40 yards to himself and catching it, they probably should have lost. They probably could have lost against Texas A&M. They did lose against a team in LSU who was, we've talked about it, overrated. Right? They lost against a Tennessee team that was riding a high, and then they dipped off.
With all that being said, they ended the season against the number 11 team, beating them 45-20.
Kansas State?
It's still a ranked team.
Cool. I mean, again, LSU was
Big 12
ranked.
champion.
Big 12 champion. Right. The same Big 12 champion that beat the team that's about to play in the national championship right now, right?
That's a good win on their record.
Great. So
beat them 45-20. Bryce Young had 5 touchdown passes.
Because Bryce Young is a Heisman candidate.
The stigma on Alabama, if they're not in the big game, they don't wake up for bowl games. So that's why this was my favorite game, because Nick Saban got those guys up to play a bowl game and made sure it meant something to them. And for them to go out that way, that's respectable.
It's very respectable.
I like that.
It's disappointed they didn't get up for the other 2 games that they lost.
Sure.
So what's your favorite game? Take the layup.
No, I don't want to necessarily take the layup. My favorite game was actually watching Michigan and TCU.
Okay.
Big Michigan guy. And watching that game, I was trying to figure out if Michigan was finally going to get over that hump for Jim Harbaugh. And to see what they did in the second half, because when I said trash earlier, looking at that game in the first half, Michigan did play like trash. And they also had a lot of things go against them where they were making, random weird turnovers or, the callback touchdown to Wilson, and all of a sudden the next play they fumble.
Right.
Like that's a huge swing. That's a 14-point swing. So what would have happened? But the fact that game came down and was competitive again late in the game, I enjoyed that. So I guess in a weird way, to your point about not wanting to see Georgia and Washington State, I wouldn't be mad if I got that game out of Georgia and Washington State, even if Georgia still went ahead and won.
Oh yeah,
because
never mad at a competitive game.
Because again, you never know what's gonna happen. So yeah, I'm not gonna take the layup. I mean, obviously, it was my favorite game was Florida State.
Right.
But yeah, give me
Travis for Heisman.
Come on, man. He was highest grade in the bowl series right now.
Sure. The slot receiver.
Oh, he's gonna be a slot receiver.
All right.
I didn't watch very many games, unfortunately. Full disclosure. So I won't pick my favorite game. I didn't watch very many. So my favorite one would be Georgia Ohio State, because I actually got to watch that beginning to end.
Okay.
I want to go with my favorite storyline, and I really like this game for a couple of reasons. The Tennessee Clemson game. One,
I was gonna pick that.
Love to see Dabo getting his teeth kicked in. Yes. The bigger thing that I really liked about that game is Josh Heupel about to be the next quarterback whisperer in college football? Because he took a Hendon Hooker who was mid to trash at Virginia Tech, couldn't beat Miami, couldn't beat the Virginias of the world consistently, made him a Heisman caliber guy. And then now he's taking Joe Milton, who was thrown away by Michigan. Harbaugh tossed him aside. He no longer had a spot. He got beat out twice by the quarterbacks, by J.J. McCarthy and by the other kid. McNamara last year. Supposed to be the next Cam Newton when he was coming in, highly touted, and they literally threw him to the side. And then now he went out against Clemson and he balled. And that's still a good Clemson defense. They may not be the dominant force that we're used to seeing Clemson defenses, but that's still a defense with, I think off the top of my head, 4 future first-round picks.
All right.
I think Brazee will be a first-round pick. Miles Murphy's going to be a first-round pick. Trent Simpson's going to be a first-round pick. I don't think they're all going this year. I know Brazee's going this year. Brazee's going. And I think that's one of the safeties or something like that is probably going to be a first-round pick whenever he goes. So that's still a good defense. And Joe Milton looked really good. He looked really good. They put up 31 on them. So I think that's a nice little storyline to keep watching. Like, is Heupel that guy now when it comes to reupholstering quarterbacks?
Ooh.
I mean, you got Nico locked and loaded.
Quarterback reupholsterer? I like that.
I think it's premature because we haven't seen enough of it. Like how Jimbo had a stretch with first round draft picks. I think I need to see more.
Okay. And they might not be first round draft picks. He may not be Lincoln Riley. Right? Lincoln Riley took Baker Mayfield, first overall pick. He took Kyler Murray, first overall pick. They may not be that, but Hendon Hooker was a great college quarterback this season. And there's no way I would ever guessed it, me personally.
Right.
I watch Hendon Hooker at Virginia Tech because we played him every year. Never in a million years would have guessed he had this type of season. I watched Joe Milton at Michigan when he got his opportunities and he got benched. Like, I watched that. And so to now see Hendon Hooker do what he did, and then maybe this is a glimpse, and maybe he can't replicate it for a full season. But that glimpse, this one game for Joe Milton is better than anything he did in Michigan, in my opinion. And Heupel, I got my eye on him.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, but I can't give it to him yet. I need to see more.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is he
potentially, because he's got I think the best quarterback recruit coming out of high school this year.
I agree.
But
I agree.
We'll see.
I don't know how he slid to number 3. I don't know how they ended up putting Dante Moore ahead of him.
And Archie's kid is still up there.
Archie's no business. Whatever. But I think Nico is the best quarterback in this class.
That's actually a very good storyline. I like what you did there. I mean, I thought you were going to go like orange team versus orange team in the Orange Bowl.
I thought about that.
That was interesting, but that doesn't matter. I don't care about the actual ball game.
I was just joking.
And Dabo lost.
And Dabo lost.
Guys, any further thoughts on college? It's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Florida State's going to be great next year.
I can't wait until the national championship game isn't on Mondays anymore. That is just terrible.
Trash.
It is god awful. I cannot wait to that day.
When do you want it?
I think they're going to do it like next year, I think.
Saturday or Friday.
It needs to,
not Friday.
It needs to be on a weekend. Put it on a Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. Okay. That's the only spot. Friday, nobody's going to really watch.
Saturday night, 8 o'clock prime time. That's what we do with all the other big games.
Yeah.
We don't play any other major college football games on a Monday.
No one wants to go to work after a great game.
No. Well, I had to work that day and I got to work the next day. Like, no, bro, let's get rid of this. Even Maction plays on Wednesday.
All right, bro. Let's get to these nibblies.
Such a dirtbag.